It is time for the last session of the day, and one that I'm sure many of us are eager to hear about. I am. I'm anxious to hear and learn a lot from this group. Artificial intelligence is no longer a future concept. It is a present day tool reshaping how converters operate, innovate, and compete. Certainly goes beyond converters too, as we heard from our last session at Avery that from Avery Dennison, they shared insight where consumers, but also brands are using AI to really generate, where the packaging is, how packaging is created and attract consumers. So it's showing up in many places for us. In this session, our members will unpack the latest AI tools and trends in transforming the label and packaging industry, from workflow to predictive analytics and beyond. So we have experts with us from eProductivity Software, Craig Tate and Jack Dempsey. This session will also feature a panel of TLMI converter members, Elizabeth Euresic Friedman from from Elizabeth Label. No, it's from Euresic Label, and Thomas DeBurra from Hub Labels, sharing real world experiences and lessons learned and practical insights for implementing AI in their operations and in their profession. Whether you're exploring AI for the first time or looking to optimize, session is grounded in converter focused perspective on what's working and what's next. So, just a bit about our presenters. Jack Dempsey is an accomplished product and technology leader with over 25 years' experience in driving global software development and product strategy across multiple industries, including print, publishing, packaging, and manufacturing. He is the vice president of R&D at eProductivity Software, or EPS. Jack leads a global R&D organization of more than 150 professionals across multiple continents in the United States, the UK, Germany, and India. Under his leadership, EPS delivers ERP, MES, and automation solutions that power business critical operations for packaging and print companies worldwide. And some of you on this call may have some of that software in your own operations. So Craig Tate, Managing Director of Corrugated Control, ESCADA, at EPS, has over two decades of expertise in manufacturing processes and software solutions. His leadership has driven significant positive change and high standards in plastics, corrugated, and packaging industries. He has extensive experience in key roles in the UK and United Industries Co. His commitment to operational excellence and innovation is evident from his tenure at Smurfit and Saka Group. May say that wrong. He'll correct me later.
Saiga, yeah.
Sahaka, where he consistently achieved impressive results. And for Elizabeth, she is part of the third generation ownership at Euresic Label, and she leads the sales and sustainability efforts at the company and also oversees purchasing, estimating, R&D, and bill of material departments. With a passion for product design, Elizabeth launched Sustain Label product suite, introducing the first printed pressure-sensitive labels applied to PET to be recognized by the Association of Plastic Recyclers Preferred Design Recognition Program. Elizabeth has spearheaded design for recycling research and championed the implementation of an internal lab for research into this topic at Euresic Label. Within the fresh food industry, Elizabeth is currently serving as co-chair of the annual Meat Conference and as a member of the International Deli, Dairy, and Bakery Association Board of Directors, as well as the Food Marketing Institute's Fresh Food Leadership Council. And Thomas DeBorah is the owner and president of Hub Labels, a leading manufacturer of custom pressure-sensitive and linerless labels in Hagerstown, Maryland. As a second-generation leader, Thomas is dedicated to continuing his family's legacy of innovation, advancing both print technology and sustainable practices. Under his guidance, Hub Label has been recognized for production excellence, workforce development and sustainability, including the TLMI Printing Excellence Award for Innovation and Maryland Employer of the Year for Apprenticeship Excellence. With decades of experience serving customers in the food, beverage, and consumer brands, Thomas brings a converter's perspective to the evolving role of AI tools and trends in the industry. So we've got quite a group around today to share what their experiences and insight with you. And I'd like to welcome Craig, Jack, Elizabeth, and Thomas. So thank you and enjoy.
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Excellent. Myself and Jack will present today. Unfortunately, Alex can't join. So you get 2 for 1 from EPS today. We'll dive straight in, and then if there's any questions, I think they'll be collated, and we'll take them all at the end. But if you've got something pressing, then just feel free to shout up, and I'll see if I can answer it along the way. Let's get started. So let's start with IT trends in manufacturing. We all know automation and artificial intelligence systems are becoming the standard now. It's a increased driven focus from real-time data. I would say in Industry 4.0 are the sort of the big buzzwords in the background for all industry at the minute. But we've got too much data for people to analyze, and this is where AI is going to play a big role. Integration with multiple systems is more critical than ever, and architecture is key to enable data flows are efficient. So we're calling that MDM. Everybody thinks that AI is brand new, but it's been around for a long time. And this gives us a little bit of a timeline of where it started and where we are as of today. So from in the 50s to the 80s, it was all rule-based. It was limited by data and computing power. No graphical processing units, all CPU stuff. In the 1990s to the 2000s, machine learning was non-generative AI using statistical models and rules and natural nets. Evolving into 2010s, where there was some deep learning breakthroughs, which were enabled by big data and the evolution of GPUs. And then in the 2020s and now, generative AI creating new content, native language, and examples of GPT, Copilot, and what is today's hype. And then what's next up is generally broad human-like intelligence, but we'll have to see where that evolves. So this is all relatively new to all of us, and everybody's on a learning curve. So it's interesting to present this today, and then it'll be interesting to do the Q&A at the end and see where everybody is on the journey. 2 types of AI. You've got generative AI and non-generative AI. So on the left side, we've got non-generative, which is analyzing, predicting, and optimizing existing data without creating new content. So a very structured database. And then you've got generative AI, which produces new content, which can be creative and often requires large data sets to train models. It's unstructured and unsupervised, and it does not think. So two very clear banks of how that's split up. Generative AI breakthrough using natural language. So the natural language origins using early rule-based languages, processed and focused on syntax and grammar. So bags of words and sequential. And then you've got large models emergence. So large-scale models, GPT as an example, trained on massive text data sets and then understand context and long data passages. And then you've got specialized language models, fine-tuned for smaller models tailored for niche domains, which improves accuracy and relevance. And then we've got turning words into numbers. So generative AI and vast computation, GPUs, so turning words into numbers, recognizing patterns, and providing numeric responses. Again, they do not think. A couple of examples of everyday use at large generative UI's use cases. So what we see every day on the left side and on the right side, how that's going to be game changing for us in terms of application. and then some sort of functions that we can see the benefits in. So in everyday AI, you see it all the time: help desk, sales portals, order processing, creation agents. On the back office side of things, we've got at large use, multi-use creations, writing images, data analysis, insights. And where that can move us forward is productivity and services, writing codes, assisting in product design, user data analysis. So really enhancing the output. And then on the large scale back office, can act on predictions and trends. So can help us with supply chain demand, breakdowns, reliability, all this sort of good, the good functionality. So there's a huge need for it. It's just how do we apply it? Non-generative AI, data processing, data and processing facts. So spreadsheets, databases, high quality raw data collection, sensors, and or obviously ERP. And then information being prepared, clean, and structured to then give us insights. Analysis paralysis is a big thing that we hear in the industries. We've got to take data and we've got to make it smart. Insights are generated by analyzing information and drawing conclusions, predicting downtimes, outliers, margins. So again, it's that using the insights to make the right decisions in our businesses. Some use case examples of non-generative AI, and then we'll move on to a little bit of how that can be improved using AI. So an insight of estimating price analysis, and a simple business function like identifying outliers with high discrepancy between actual cost, estimating and invoice sales, categories and order products. And if you add generative AI, it can actually just take some actions and it can actually become dynamic and help us adjust prices and fix estimating in that use case. For estimating duration, could help us adjust estimated timing parameters. I won't go through each of these. You'll get a copy of it, but this gives you an idea of how you can use basic business functions, and then you can take it to another level using generative AI. So it's going to help us with inventory management, fixing data, adjusting prices, and becoming more dynamic in our decision making. Generative AI use cases and labels, so industry specific. Generative AI analyzes data patterns that evolve, iterating that are repetitive, looking for outliers in data and pattern recognition. So front of office, an example is writing quote cover letters and formatting estimates. Customer comms, generating personalized emails, proposals, and frequently asked questions. Standard ops, bane of everyone's life in manufacturing, but a necessary evil. Using meeting transcripts and using generative AI to draft procedures, and a really powerful tool. An HR policy drafting, speeding up documentation, and creating AI generated templates. So agent actions, insights, routes, decision making, and execute automatically. So we are automating task triggered events with agents and late schedules, field quality checks, inventory level alerts. All of these things can improve efficiencies and reduce risk with customer noise. Automate incident reporting using sensor data to detect and report equipment failures. I think generative AI has been used in reliability modules across multiple software solutions in the industry now. So it's a big one, using sensor data. So breaking that down, applying generative AI in your business is train your team, make AI tools accessible and understandable. Copilot, ChatGPT is an example. Start with a pilot, choose something low risk, high impact, so start small. Use generative AI to solve one annoying problem, then scale it up. And then get help, work with vendors who understand your goals and your business. Set smart goals, then run the pilot. Identify a use case, gather clean data, manage your engage your team and measure and improve. So standard PDCA type methodology, plan, do, check, act, just continuous. Take the learnings and move forward. This brings us on to the next slide. Is Jack on?
Jack is not on at the moment.
Did Jack not join us? Okay, so some EPS examples which would be where Jack would have joined. So improve CX or self-help tools, speed up troubleshootings using chat help bot contextual help to users. So we're using sort of chat bots and one of our devs to try and improve what we do on customer success for our products. So that's something that we're exploring and we're working on in the background. In terms of generative AI capabilities, looking for key insights, summarizing data results and reports and widgets, and contextual based insights based on personalized preferences. We're working on some machine learning models or some options for that in the background. I touched a little bit on reliability modules. We've got a very clean set of data, so making that set of data smart data, and something that we're working on for the future. In terms of assisted AI workflows, rule-based automation of manual tasks, observe and react to user-defined events. So we've got some tools in the background where we can automate this for you. And then AI scheduling, machine learning based on optimization of top scores, suggesting optimized rules. Something that we're working on again, maybe is in the scheduling side of things for optimizing better decisions in the planning tool. In terms of data strategy, what are the essential AI pillars? AI conclusions is only as good as the data behind it. We've got lots of data, so we have to make sure that the data is accurate. Start with structured, trustworthy data such as machine time, job information, what you would get from your ERP or MES systems, which obviously we represent today. Clean data, accurate predictions, better decisions. Data as a single most valuable asset converters are generating. If you can harness it, you can automate almost anything. That's very, very true. Many converters already have the data in their MIS and ERP pre-press and shop floor systems. The first move is organizing and connecting those sources. And finally, AI is a team sport. I think the first point is really relevant. I think people get worried when they see AI is being used. It's not there to replace humans. It's there to complement what we do and improve efficiencies. When you present upskilling and new growth opportunities with our companies and teams, most will fear losing jobs to automation, but jobs like data entry and analysis just means that we take away the laborious tasks and we do the value-added tasks. So it's not there to replace people. Less demand for manual skills. Example, data collection processing. There is an element of that. It will certainly help us with some of the manual skills, but and certainly data collection, but analyzing it in the right way. Successful adoption requires cross-functional collaboration, good training and upskilling, and good leadership, buy-in, and transparency. So that is a quick overview of how we see it as of today. So open to some questions if we have any.
We don't have any in the chat right at the
Okay.
moment. So if we want to, we could move on to the conversation, and which might generate a few more between you and the questions to Thomas and Elizabeth on AI and their workplaces.
Yeah, if there's none in the chat, yeah, of course, yep. That's so yeah, just starting small with AI. What was the first problem you tried to solve with AI in the old business, and what made it the right starting point?
Well, Craig, I can jump in on that.
Yeah.
I won't bore you with the detail or the time I spent playing with ChatGPT, the various iterations of that, and some automated powered note takers. I kind of want to share when it clicked what the power of AI was. I was working on a project with managing a 50-mile ultra endurance race. I needed to do some research, so I went to Google and I was pulling down these massive medical journal articles. They were big, they were long, and they were very difficult to understand. And I remember reading about a product called Notebook LM. What Notebook LM does is allows you to create a small sandbox, a small sample size of data in order to get questions answered so it doesn't get polluted with a lot of other data. So it was pretty awesome. I was able to go in, ask questions specifically about protocols that I needed to understand, and it answered them. I asked it to develop some protocols around the race. It developed them for me. And what was even cooler is it was able to create a podcast from the content that I had in those documents. So to me, that was kind of like the light bulb moment on what it could do. From a personal productivity standpoint, it's been hit or miss. AI can do a lot of things for you, but you need to carve out time to go through the wins and the losses, because the last thing you want to do is find a good product, roll it out to your team, and have them do the trial and error, because it can be a little frustrating. Some of the other wins that we've had are around on our finance team. We just invested in a product called Data Rails. Most of us are familiar with BI, business intelligence, reams and reams of data. Sometimes you can spend a ridiculous amount of time going down a rabbit hole. An AI-powered product like Data Rails allows you to take the data and get meaningful actions out of it. And then it can create additional insight that you wouldn't have been able to pick up, because now it's looking at a huge data set. One of the other wins that we that back to that small sample size was if a company like mine, we've developed a lot of SOPs over the years, and you can imagine you've got a lot of SOPs.
Yeah,
they don't work because they're hard to get to when you need them. So once again, back to that small sample size, we dumped all our SOPs in an agent. We have a young man here who's our AI guru. He created a little agent that sits on people's computers. Now they can go in and ask questions. What do I do about ordering a die? What do I do if it's on a film? So you could see how, win after win around a problem you're trying to solve. The other easy win was developing an AI chatbot around your handbook. And the project we're working on now is we're taking all our paper specs from our different vendors, putting them in a different sandbox that allows people across the organization to ask questions on what products to use. So that's
very good.
Those are some fun things.
Very good.
Thanks, Thomas. I was taking notes. That was awesome.
Yeah, that's right.
I was as well.
Yeah, really good insights on there. Heard a lot about, and I think we'll maybe talk a little bit about agentic work. Really interesting to hear kind of how you guys are using it with these different chatbots. I love the fact that they're internally focused. I think a lot of the time you hear about chatbots more in an external customer facing focus. But I think so much about attracting and retaining new talent who's entering the workforce is meeting them where they're at in terms of just being a digital native and creating some of these internal resources, chatbots that you guys are talking about is a great way to meet them there, where they're really familiar with that kind of back and forth, and that gets them easy access to the information that they're looking for in a way that they're really familiar with. For us at Euresic Label, Whereas kind of what you're talking about is a little bit more on the team level. I would say that we've had much more individual success, and we're more, to use a TLMI term, kind of on the trailhead, right, of our path for AI. So we have had some movement on the team level towards some different apps. You mentioned the note taker at the beginning, and I definitely will bore you with some of our wins on the note taker. For us, that was really our first kind of foray at a team level into AI. We use Bubbles internally, and it is surprising. You kind of hear it as something common, as kind of a first step that a business takes within AI, but I'm always surprised that I don't see more note takers on meetings that I'm on. It is rare that I see them externally with customers, but we obviously use it internally as well. So our note taker comes into any meeting that is booked on my schedule. I'm able to ask it to exit if there are customers who are not comfortable or organizations who are uncomfortable with that. But in terms of kind of small wins, whenever you are, one of our taglines is moving at the speed of fresh. And I think most converters can relate to this. Time is of the essence consistently, right? So being sure that you're using your meeting time in a valuable way, having agendas, having action items easily accessible, and summaries. Something that Bubbles does for us is it's recording all of our meetings. So from multiple standpoints, that's really, really helpful. Not only internally, but externally too, for customers. If they have people that aren't available for the meeting, being able to send them that right afterwards. But it's also taking a transcript, and it's giving you action items. All of that can really be used in different ways moving forward with AI, right? So if you're able to pull that transcript, there are just a load of other things that you can do within just ChatGPT with that information. So although it does seem like something that can all kind of be a primary step for most businesses, I think it is one of those things that has high value in terms of making your time worth the effort whenever you are having these meetings, being prepared with using a transcript from a previous meeting, not using a person's time to take that detailed of notes, and then being able to turn that into, okay, here's where we left off. Here's the action items that have been accomplished since then. Give me an agenda for what's set forth for this next meeting. So that was definitely a win that we're seeing across the organization. Another app that we've been introducing, kind of along the lines of what you were speaking about, Thomas, with the internal chatbot that you've created for processes and procedures. And you hit the nail on the head in terms of the just searchability and findability, I guess, if that's a word. That's your biggest barrier, right? You could have everything completely categorized in the right area and with all the clear directions, but if you can't find it when you need it, it's really not of value. So we've been working with an app called Trainual. And it is funny, you mentioned data rails, and I think as you work with these apps more, you start to get served ads for them more in your personal life and kind of see these different apps. I've seen data rails ads, and Trainual actually came to me through a social media ad too. But it's a great way to kind of see these new opportunities for business and apps. So we've been using Trainual as kind of a digital resource that uses AI. So it does things like it's searchable. So not quite as far as having that chatbot that you had mentioned, but anything that you put in there is searchable. But B, what's really nice about it is that they have a lot of templates there, right? But you can upload and import your current SOPs. When you do that, it will use AI to generate tests on those SOPs, right? So you have almost a very easily created training procedure that just accompanies your current SOPs as they are. And there's a lot of other, kind of value adds to it, but those are some of the key things that we saw initially when we adopted that. So some kind of, oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to have to interrupt you because I got this idea from you, and I did some digging in Fireflies to see if it had it, was giving feedback on intonation and how people are responding to things you're saying.
Oh, okay.
Didn't you say Bubbles has that ability? Where you could see if you said something to somebody and then it'll give you some feedback like, well, wait a second, their tone changed.
Oh, no, I
That
don't know.
wasn't you?
I don't think it was me on intonation. Maybe it was. But it does do the transcript. And I have used the transcript for things kind of along that nature. It's interesting. Whereas if you will use the transcript, and of course you have to be very careful, I think we should probably just talk about the fact that there is security concerns with all of this, right? You want to make sure that you're working in closed systems. And sometimes that takes using paid for versions with all of these things. And definitely each company has their own way that they go about that. But whenever you're sharing those transcripts, you can look for things like that, where the words that are being used might not be the actual recording itself, but intonation can be, I guess, implied by the language and the vocabulary that's being used within the meeting. And if you use ChatGPT often, then you'll know that it's very good with tone, right? So it can very easily say to you when you're prompting it for something and it's giving you a response, tell me if you'd like me to be more curt with this, more friendly with this, more warm with this. And of course, that's really important to your point, Thomas, when you're responding to people, right? And analyzing the way that someone might be feeling behind what they're saying. So I'll have to go back and recall, but yeah.
I think because I started looking into it. Now I haven't played with it. And this is the thing with AI is you got to carve out time to play with these things. So you can kind of be the expert, and you might be the expert this week on it. The next week, something else is going to come out or it's going to get tweaked. But you definitely need to play.
Yeah, I think super important point. Something that I wanted to definitely touch on here, and I think you probably feel the same way if you've been playing for a while. I've been playing for probably since November of last year, right? So it's probably got a good, 8 months of data on me. Again, security is really important in this, so I'll just preface everything we say with that. But I'm very open, right, with my models. And it's so interesting to me now that as we talk about data and why data is really important with AI, not only on your business, it's data on yourself too, right? So it's learned, maybe proposals that I was working on for customers, internal projects that I had been talking about, and maybe they're longer term, I can come back to it now and say, okay, I'm ready to enact this project. Show me the operational barriers. Or, okay, the customer came back with this feedback, and it recalls those things, right? So it really is, it's part of the data that you're putting into it just by playing. So you may think that it's, okay, I'm just getting familiar with it, but actually you're building this really great data set on how you work, and it's only going to be able to better assist you as you kind of continue down that path. Do you find that, Thomas?
It's funny. I had something happen to me last week that was really weird with I like to use Grok on the personal side.
Okay.
It's a little bit, seems friendlier. It came back, I was asking it a vitamin question, and I thought it was the first time I was seeing generative AI, but it may not be. I asked it a question on vitamins, and it said, well, based on a question you asked, well, this might be an issue you might face with taking this vitamin. And I was kind of like, wow, where did that come from?
So just touching on that, have you experimented with generative AI with ChatGPT, Copilot, and the back office or customer facing solutions?
I don't think so. I say I don't think so because I will say, Craig, I think there's a new app that I started playing with that it's called Sintra, where I'm thinking it's using generative AI because, and I've only used it for a short time, but it's building this profile on me. Every morning it'll ask me questions about my business, about me personally. And then the next day, the little chat bots will send me messages about things that I need to do based on my responses, based on the way I want to grow my business. This morning, it sent me this crazy marketing plan because I was asking some questions around cannabis, and it had my profile on some other questions I had forgotten I'd answered. And it said, okay, based on the fact that you're in Maryland, you like to work with referrals. Here are some cannabis companies that you don't do business with that have tight connections with these other cannabis companies that you do business with. And it laid it out. And then it even gave me a 5-point email marketing plan to reach out to them. And I was
Oh.
like, yeah. I was like, good morning. This is a great way to start the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can, there is a lot of truth to the fact that you are essentially amplifying your work. I don't even know if I can give it a value because it's pretty incredible sometimes, you know, the speed at which a concept that you have, you know, kind of speaking to the external side for some, maybe it's a new market, like Thomas was saying, or new product line that you're looking to develop, whatever it is, new partnership, taking that
Yeah.
concept and something that would have taken you, you know, kind of a week to really iron out and get the details where you wanted them to. That's done. That first proposal is done in less than 2 seconds, right? And so I think I do work with it a good bit on the customer side, really to polish things more than anything, communication wise. But a lot of times it's with proposals, and I think it has improved our speed to market in terms of being creative on new proposals, right? Thinking of them from challenging in my prompts to think of them from a barrier standpoint, right? What are the barriers that the customer is going to see to this proposal, and can you fill in those holes for it? So it is kind of like you know, having, I kind of related almost to having an MBA like professor in the room with you, someone who's really, really experienced at a high level of what that specific market you're asking about, or that specific thing, to Thomas's point about cannabis. Having that person in the room with you and giving you instant feedback to that. So if you lean into it, it's incredible the value you can get out of it.
So those of you that know me, I'm not a detail guy. And so I was working on updating an SOP with my team, and I had them send it to me. And I'm looking at this thing, and I'm just like looking at this thing. So I decided to just dump it in my chat and say, hey, how does this read? And it came back with some really actionable feedback. And it actually said it was pretty good. I was missing a timeline that needed to be dialed in. But so, you know, you got to look at the way you work, and where you don't work well in the past, you hire somebody to fill that gap. But now with AI, if you know you're not good with details or looking at spreadsheets, you know,
Did you
play
go back to
around.
your team? Did you go
What's
back to your
that?
team with that response?
No, well, they know I'm not good with numbers and details, Craig, so that's no surprise. But I you know, dump it, and this is where you kind of need to carve out time to play with it, because if you're at work, you know, you've got your cadence, you need to get things done. But carving out that time to play with it, because sometimes the results aren't what you expected or right. I mean, really, spreadsheets, it has I have the hardest time working with.
Yeah,
because I'll dump spreadsheets in, and I'll ask it for an answer based on, you know, something like a pivot, like you would do with a pivot table, and I get some weird results. So you need to almost play around with it.
Data's not always that accurate. Yeah, I have to agree. I've experienced that as well. So when you've introduced it into your business units, is there skepticism? Is there excitement? What's the feedback from staff?
I'll let Elizabeth lead with that one.
Yeah, I think it's excitement. And it's funny, there's really no rhyme or reason as to why each person has their individual reaction. I haven't found any kind of correlation to generation with that, because I really think it's related to tech savviness. You know, some people are really comfortable with adopting new technologies, and that can just be based on what they like in their free time. Maybe they like to game, maybe they like to code. So in general, there hasn't been a lot of hesitation, just because I think what we try to do is a lot of peer-led training. We are working towards a more formal program, and I love what Thomas mentioned, that he has kind of an AI guru. I think that's a great way to start. But what we typically will do to kind of showcase our wins or showcase the usability of it is, like I said, peer-led, just kind of walk through the prompt. So much of AI is, can you prompt well? And if you can and kind of really feel comfortable with that, then you can usually get to where you want to go. You did bring up a good point that it isn't always right. I think you do have to really tell people that, because there is this kind of belief that it is the be all know all. But I've found many instances of being incorrect, and that's where you can kind of teach the model as well. So I think that it's important when you do this introduction that you're kind of teaching all aspects of it, right? You're teaching security for the business in terms of the data that you're entering. You're teaching to double check the work. You're teaching to prompt. All of those things are kind of key skills that you need whenever you're working with AI.
Yeah,
Very
so
good.
Craig, with us, we've been kind of spooning it out, trying to make sure that we don't sidetrack employees with mistakes that AI will do. So what I've done is the executive team here, I've kind of given them all a license to play with Copilot within Microsoft. And of course, I know the GM here has been pretty actively working on AI, but I want to make sure that when I roll something out to the team, that it doesn't just create another noise point, like, oh, this is another one of Thomas's harebrained ideas, and it's going to half work. So I have to be careful with that, because I do come up with harebrained ideas. But so far, it's, the theme that I'm trying to communicate to the team is that what we're trying to do is create systems that will eliminate the day-to-day stuff, so they can spend time with customers and with the team. So that's kind of like been my ongoing theme with it.
Okay, very good. So in terms of outcomes, productivity, quality, decision making, speed, anything that you can see tangible from work done so far?
I think in those instances where you have team members that perhaps struggle with, I think you mentioned it, kind of paralysis analysis, you would be surprised when how much of that happens, but how much of that happens on a communication basis. Just like, how do I send this email? Is this the right tone? People just sitting in front of emails for a long time. And again, time is of the essence. So it seems really simple, but just enabling the usage of these apps and having that kind of double check, those are wins, right? When I see communication speed up and be more polished, both internally and externally, so that you're presenting as a company in a way that's aligned with how we go to market. Those are wins for us. The speed of which our SOPs and training are kind of increasing, and the value of them to the organization. I would say that those are some quick wins. And then again, kind of on the supplier side, and we haven't talked much about equipment or anything of that nature, but with everything going on, with tariffs and all of that fun stuff, that creates, it's created an opportunity to take a large data set that is ever evolving and kind of have a stance and a position on it and make it a bit more manageable. So that's been a win for us in terms of dealing with some of those instances that have come up specifically over the past few months.
And Craig, wins have been more around using the tools that I think we all see day to day. The wins where I'm excited to see come are when our bigger system providers going to come up with something. I know that I'll use EPS. You guys have big systems. I mean, trying to put in a thoughtful AI-driven tool is probably a lot of work. Our press manufacturers, I mean, we've got kind of business intelligence data collection on the machines, but they're just that. They're just data. I will say, I'm not plugging for EPS by any stretch of the imagination, but years ago, I bought a software from you guys called PrintFlow. And to me, that was like, when did I buy that? That was like an early iteration of AI to me, because it was able to, but it was rules-based, right? I'm excited to see, okay, well, how is AI going to superpower my scheduling software to make adjustments on the fly, to come back and say, well, you know what, Thomas, based on the way you ran this job and this job, maybe the next time I see them come through, we're just going to put them together. But the one software, I went to ESCO World last week, and some of the tools that I saw that they were doing around AI was cool. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what the big software providers start to roll out.
There's huge opportunity. I see Jack's joined as well, so I'm sure Jack has got some ideas on how we're going to be taking that forward. Thanks for joining, Jack.
Yeah, sorry,
Um,
I'm quite delayed.
it's okay. But yeah, it's interesting that we mentioned print flow and some of those insights that we could develop going forward. So definitely something that we've got on the radar. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think, and again, I missed part of the conversation, but I think from our product side, we're all kind of journeyman learning about this, but even from just a software development perspective, using Copilot, we've seen, pretty substantial gains in productivity across almost all of our products. And we're really lucky to be part of an ecosystem, under our ownership where we can collaborate across different products and see what people are doing with different NLMs, different technologies, and share that. But and you may have already spoken, Craig, about some of the things we're doing with OpenAI chatbot GPT, right? With Genie that we're rolling out, and Thomas, you just mentioned about our scheduling software, which previously was more or less strong algorithms that learned, from a rules-based perspective, what was there. And now the ability to add open AI to that allows us to learn quicker, right? And get insights that our algorithm wouldn't have looked for before, right? Because those were things that we only told it to look for, and now it can learn for things that we hadn't told it about before. So
Yeah, so the algorithm in the case of PrintFlow is that BI loop, right? So now we meet to go over the data daily from all the data we collect. But it's going to be awesome when an entire meeting will be eliminated because it's going to be doing it in the background and providing the team that feedback.
yeah,
So super excited.
Yeah, it's exciting times.
I think these technologies are great. I think the one thing we've found is that, and just like Alex put in the slides here, it's not a substitute yet for people, right? There's lots of learning that the tools can do. And from a development perspective, setting up environments, the repetitive nature of things, it's very good. Most tools are very good at that. The functional knowledge, going into a labels plant where something actually, a roll gets split 4 times before an operation is put on that, programmatically, we just haven't figured out with any tool how it learns that, right? Whereas the people that might have been working on an application for 10, 15 years, they understand the workflows and the use cases, which are pretty complicated.
It'll get better, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Probably faster than we realize.
There's a quote that a member of one of our boards would say to us kind of at the beginning of the onset when ChatGPT came out and all the different apps. And he would say, you're not going to lose your job to AI, but you will lose your job to a company using AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it's important from the vendor perspective, and as we're talking about equipment, whether it is equipment or services, as owners, we're looking at, and our executive team as well, but whenever we're looking at whether it be equipment or services, that AI is very highly placed within that organization. Integration with large language models and/or having predictive analytics, things like that on the equipment side of things. And to Thomas's point, not kind of just being the gathering of data, but giving recommendations and allowing us to kind of make value out of that we wouldn't otherwise have.
Yeah, Elizabeth, you said integration made me think of a conversation I had with some of my team this morning. The traditional Venn diagram, right? 3 circles.
Mhm.
What I see is that we've got all these disparate systems. And right now there's a little bit of overlap on how they all talk to each other. But can you imagine when we get to the point where
That's the exciting bit.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's when they can all see the same picture, but from different data points. That's where I'm most excited. When is that going to happen?
Yeah, and that's a big lift, right? We're looking for a new system right now, ERP, and it's exciting to be able to do that. But when you look at people who are not as far along within the journey or kind of starting later to the journey, it's interesting that they might not be at the disadvantage, right? They might be at the advantage. It actually might be the larger companies with the larger data sets and more systems in place that are at the disadvantage there because of the lift, right? That it's going to take to fully integrate all
To
of that.
move. Yeah,
So I do think that it's a
it's a good
unique,
point.
yeah, it's a unique advantage that you actually have if you're nimble and you're just starting out, where you can look towards some of these newer systems that are coming out with that kind of end goal in mind of total system integration, and be able to adopt that quicker than maybe an organization that's much larger than you.
Yeah, you're right. Some of the real-time machine data feedback to make dynamic decisions at the front end can really take us forward. It's always been siloed and little bits of integration that helps make some decisions. But when we open that up fully, which we're working on, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned silos. That because I'm new to this one little piece of software that I'm using, Sintra. It's trying to break down those silos. So it's got these 12 chatbot agents that are in different areas of your organization, and it's trying to link them all together. And I'll warn everybody, you know, when you're doing this stuff, you might think coming out of the gate, oh my God, I found the Holy Grail. But as you use them, they all have their strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
And it can be frustrating. Because for me, I mean, you think about it, all the inputs I get, and I'm sure Elizabeth and the rest of you, I've got email, I've got text, I got Teams, I got my telephone, and it drives me nuts. So this Holy Grail that I got was, oh my gosh, I think I'll be able to get like a daily summary of my Teams messages, my emails, but it doesn't work as advertised.
Not quite yet.
Not yet.
So if you are talking to the rest of the audience, converters that are just getting started with AI, what's the one piece of advice you would give?
I think just start.
Yeah.
It seems really simple, but just to Thomas's point earlier, you get in your cadence and you do your work as you do your work. But if you can try to make it a part of your work to consult AI before you send that email, or consult AI as you're starting a proposal and you're hitting kind of a wall, you'll start to kind of see how it shifts the way that you work. And so it does seem silly. I'm sure that a lot of people have heard this already, but you know, if you haven't started, we are kind of getting to the point that I don't want to say you're going to be behind, but you're just losing time, right? Because it moves so fast, and so where we're going to be a year from now, totally different than where we're at now.
It's absolutely right. And just play with it. Take some online classes to learn about how to prompts are critical. If you change a prompt, you get a different result. I mean, like, really big time. I did see a question somebody asked about if you when you're writing an email or writing a document, they do sound, you can tell that they're AI driven. And the way I do that is it's my skeleton. It's my starting point. I don't ever create an AI driven document without going in and adding my touch to it. I did joke with Lene's team. My bio was completely AI driven, by the way. I didn't even touch that one up. It wasn't bad. So there you go. There's a case where I was like looking at that going, well, that's pretty good.
There's instances where AI driven, like for a bio or for marketing copy, like you want that, right? And you can use that prompting to give it different tones, whether it's warm, whether it's funny, kind of punchy, and that using that type of prompting will usually get you out of that like standard box that AI typically fits you in. I've seen a lot back and forth. I'm not sure the actual formal name of it, but that dash that AI uses, that's like a dead giveaway, right? When I'm on LinkedIn and I see people have use of a dash in the middle of a sentence, and they're using it lots of times, I almost automatically think this whole thing is AI. And in those instances, when it is what's supposed to be personal, right? that, or like an email communication to a customer internally, you don't want that sense of this was made by AI and it was something that someone didn't take the time to, create themselves. So I do think, to Thomas's point, in those instances, it can actually turn you off when you're using it. So you do have to use it more of a skeleton and really kind of insert yourself, and just use it as what's inspiring and or kind of polishing what you're doing.
And there was another question in there of what advice or warnings would you give newbies to security of their data?
I think Elizabeth said it. Don't use freeware. Yeah. Pay
Yeah.
for it.
Pay extra, right?
Yeah, the big concern is that it's training on your data. And so although it would have to be like a very focused inquiry to then extract that data at some point, it could happen, right? So I think always, if you are using free data, just speaking in generalities is probably your safest thing to do. Removing names, removing as much as you can to still get what you want. But yeah, paid for is usually what's most important. But even in paid for, you want to look at your settings and make sure that it is not training off the data that you're giving it.
Yeah, and then like to counter or to continue what Elizabeth is saying, I use Grok paid and Perplexity paid. Grok trains off the data, so I don't use any financial stuff in Grok, but Perplexity protects it. Yeah. So.
Okay.
Well, and that brings up a good one too. We had an inquiry come in to McKaylee and Mackenzie directly that you guys have been mentioning different apps or different software. So you had Grok and then Perplexity. Could you repeat those again? Because people in the audience want to hear what that list was. So of who you're using. Bubbles was another. What other apps or things are you using?
So Bubbles is an AI-driven note-taking software that Elizabeth uses. I use Fireflies, but there's Otter.ai. There's a bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
The chat agents, I like Perplexity because you have different models you can click on. So if you want something more creative, you can say, okay, I'll use Claude. If you want to do deep research, which is pretty awesome, you can click on the deep research key. But oh, by the way, I just read OpenAI's O3 model just achieved genius rating. So it's considered, it got a 135 on the genius. What is that? Mensa? So
yeah, the Mensa. Yeah, I think the one thing I would add is that I often use AI to find other AI or rate other AI. One of the questions was just, can you give pros and cons? So I will say, because ChatGPT is kind of my home base, but if I'm looking for something specific, like Thomas has mentioned, I'll say, this is the problem I'm looking to solve. I just use this with video animation. What are some AI tools that I could use? Give me the pros and cons of each. And it'll pull all that data for you. So I would encourage you to do that as well, and kind of use AI to find more AI and to understand what those specific tools are for, because there are so many apps out there.
Now, what's funny is Grok, if you ask Grok that, Grok will always put itself at the top of the list because it thinks it's best. So the reason I keep Grok brings a little personality into it.
Yeah, so they do have personalities. They all do. It's funny. Sam Altman of OpenAI has said that it will actually, if you ask it the same thing over and over, it'll get tired of you. It'll actually get kind of annoyed of you. And you mentioned before, I think you said Grok is a little bit kinder. Sam Altman also said about one of the previous iterations that came out of OpenAI that it does something called glazing, which is when they are too nice to you. And that they're kind of working on that. So the terminology is really interesting, and just kind of how they're developing these to model the behavior of humans. But very interesting to watch.
So it makes me think of all of them have this option now where you can voice chat, but it's not like a regular voice chat. So on my way to work now, I fire it up, and I'll actually be in my car having a conversation with my chatbot about the news, the weather. I'll ask it questions. It's different.
It is. Siri just came out with, they've been trying hard to get Siri kind of to the level of these other AI bots, and it's been hard for them, but I think they just released her And my son one of my sons is better kind of with Alexa, or I'm sorry, I've been meaning to say Alexa this whole time. Better with Alexa than my other sons are. So he's been talking with her, and I noticed how interesting she was in some of her responses. It is a little weird. So something to be aware of.
So my wife, the other day, I was asked, I had a question I wanted to ask my chatbot, and I was in the kitchen, and it was like 6:30 in the morning. She comes in and she goes, "Who are you talking to so early in the morning?" And I said, "My chatbot." She kind of looked at me like, "That's so weird."
It's where we're headed. Yeah, it's where we're headed. I guess I would just close with one note to that. There was a question in there of, kind of what do you like, personal versus business? And I know Thomas has his reasonings for both. For me, I'm kind of building this repository of myself and this thing that's much smarter than me that knows what I'm working on, all in one place. So while I'm sure there is a way for Thomas to get all his data into one, right, from those both different places, for me, it's valuable for that bot to know everything about me and everything I do. So that's why I do keep it in one place. But of course, you have to keep security front of mind.
Well, that gives me a reason to pick one and stick with it. One of the things that we didn't even talk about was AI generated graphics, which, since we're printers, that's pretty revolutionary.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's going to be interesting with copyright. We're seeing a lot of lawsuits right now. There's big lawsuit right now with I think Reddit and OpenAI that's going to bring some some new norms to light for AI and kind of what the expectation is on data privacy. But the other thing we didn't talk about that I think would be good maybe for another session, I think we're past time now, but sustainability is something that I've been keeping a watch of. It's kind of the dirty word associated with AI that we didn't talk about here at all. But there's a lot of impact in terms of sustainability with using AI. So there's a balance to be struck there. And again, maybe something that we can talk about in the future.
Well, Elizabeth, Pennsylvania's leading the charge because they're firing up 3 Mile Island in order to feed.
Yeah, the nuclear. Nuclear is a huge topic with it all. Nuclear, water, all that type of stuff, because those huge computers, they require it. So yeah, something we can talk about more.
Well, that'll be a good one to continue. And I know Jack smiled when you mentioned it, Elizabeth, so he knows it's a topic out there. So we did have just one more question, and then we are past time. I think people are interested, but we don't want to be accused of keeping people from doing their jobs. So we will go with this last question and let people get back to it. And we will be continuing the conversation about AI through other webinars and in our in-person events. So it is about, can you recommend an effective AI tool that turns videos into step-by-step instructions or SOPs? The person here Sophia said they've used Scribe for processes and Screenshot Heavy, but just looking for something to document hands-on production processes. And Carrie shared Deep House. So there are just a couple of recommendations in there. Anyone on the panel or the call?
Now, Carrie's on my team, so yeah, we looked at Deep House.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's good. Good answer, Carrie. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. She just knew you were going to ask, so or need to know, right?
No, she knew I forgot.
Yeah, that's right. Well, thank you all very much for participating. It's something that is a hot topic, and I think it's great listening to it from this side, knowing that it's going to come into the operations and software. But like you said, Elizabeth, we've just got to start. I'm in the camp that really needs to start. I watch my boys use it all the time, so I'm right there too. So I want to thank you all very much. So Jack and Craig, it's nice to meet you, and thank you for joining, and Thomas and Elizabeth as always. And just want to make sure that everybody joins us next week or on Wednesday. We have 3 more sessions coming for on different topics, including automation and sustainability related topics. So thank you all for taking your time to join us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks
all.
Bye.